discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much. If everyone can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Very pleasant. Everyone can please silence your electronic devices. If there's any students here for government class, my name is Timothy Crumley. I'm the president of the board. That's one line on your sheet. Anybody on the board can sign your slip at the end of the meeting to get your credit for the class for attending the meeting. Any member of the board can sign your paper at the end of the meeting to get credit for your class. If anybody's here and would like to make public comment, there's a sign-up sheet over on the bench over on the right-hand side. You just have to put down your name, a little bit of contact information, and that portion of the meeting will be coming up here in a little bit. Thank you very much. Motion to move the agenda to the table made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Ms. Holmes. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Dr. Evans, any additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda?
Yes, President Crumley, I'm recommending that we remove action item T11.
Thank you very much, Dr. Evans. Motion to adopt the agenda with the deletion made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Ms. Greco. All in favor? So ordered. We are going to recess for a brief time for a public hearing on policy 5300 code of conduct. Dr. Evans.
Yes, thank you, President Crumley. So tonight.
We have to make a motion to recess, right?
Yes.
Okay. You want to do your floor first? Okay. Motion to have recess for public hearing made by Mr. Vera, seconded by Ms. Galligan. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered.
So the board has been considering for the past few meetings an amendment to the district code of conduct that would allow for the random metal detection screening of students upon their entry of school. So the way that this would work is on a given day, we would set up metal detectors and wands by our security team and administration, and they would randomly select students for metal detection screening as they entered school. In order to do that, there has to be an amendment to the district's code of conduct, which the board has done a first reading of that policy, and later tonight, the board will be considering a second reading and adoption of that change in policy. In order to make a change to the code of conduct, the board has to allow for a public hearing in which members of the community or board members may ask questions about the proposed change to the policy. So just a reminder for everyone, the way that this would work is on a given day, if administration were to set up the metal detectors, they would randomly select every 10th student, every 15th student out of the line as they enter the school to pass through the metal detectors for metal screening. And then in that change of policy, there's a protocol for what would happen where, students are going to be asked to empty any metal belongings onto the table. They'll pass through the metal detector. If the metal detector goes off, they'll be asked to step aside, and then security aides will use the metal detecting wands to try to pinpoint what might be setting off the alarm, and then continue to ask students to remove any metal objects. If it comes to a point where a weapon is discovered, or if the student refuses to cooperate and there's still a metal detector sensor going off, then administration will take steps according to our code of conduct and any possible legal matter with law enforcement if determined necessary. So we do this in hopes of protecting the safety and security of our students and staff. We are already able to to use these devices for student and community events where attendance is not required. So for example, at the homecoming dance, we used it there. We gave notice that we would be using it. And things seem to have gone well. Nothing was detected and kids seem to have a great time. So that is what the board will be acting on later. And now would be an opportunity for any board members or members of the public to ask questions regarding that change.
Questions from the board? Gentlemen at the back.
What would be the process for parental contact if you do find something?
So it's a good question. Just so people at home can hear it, it's what's the process for parental contact if something is detected? Only if something were detected that would be a violation of our code of conduct or the law, at that point would a parent be contacted. But if the student goes through and their belt sets off the detector and then they remove the belt and then they find nothing else, we wouldn't be contacting parents about that. But only if it got to a point where it violated the code of conduct or other law.
Any other questions from the board or the public? Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Evans. Motion to reconvene the meeting made by Ms. Jersey, seconded by Ms. Galligan. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Moving on to approval of draft minutes, October 19th, 2023. Motion by Mr. Groden, seconded by Ms. Rivera. Discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Approval of draft minutes, October 24th, 2023. Motion by Mr. Groden, second by Ms. Galligan. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Student board member update. Caitlin, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you today?
Awesome. Let's have it.
So I am personally very excited. Emerging Ensembles, which is a very great class that has all instrumentalists, whether that's a vocalist, whether it's someone who plays guitar, bass, anything like that. We all come together and we make music. So we are going to be performing for the Hall of Distinction, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Julian Dawson, one of this year's honorees, pushed in all of the government classes this week to talk to students about do-gooding and giving back, and it was great. We are inviting food services out to the next student advisory meeting in order to discuss some of the issues that we've been having, especially with with the breakfast line being too long, and students are being late to first period, and seventh period lunch have been running out of meatless options. And we also will be discussing possible internships for working the salad bar. Since the cafeteria now charges for water during lunch, we are looking into purchasing light metal water bottles for students. Hopefully we can get a few new clubs to merge resources to afford this. Another exciting thing that we had going on was a living environment teacher, shall be starting December 4th. Veterans Assembly is November 9th at 12 p.m. in the auditorium. Cross-country sectionals are in Warwick this Saturday. And the food drive and toy drive are going to kick off soon. It's going to look a bit different this year. Details will be coming soon from Ms. Alvarez. Thank you, guys. Any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Webb?
Absolutely.
How much are they charging for water?
They're charging $1. And it's like one of those mini water bottles, so not a full size. Yes.
That's something that's not part of the food.
Any other questions for Ms. Weiss? Thank you very much, Caitlin. Appreciate it. Moving on, Ms. Greco.
I'd like to motion that we adopt the consent agenda F1 to L2.
A second on that made by Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much, Ms. Greco. Uh, Moving on to. Scared. Moving on to information reports and discussions. Board roundtable. We're all kind of out of sorts today. I'm gonna start with Miss Jersey.
Today we met with Mrs. Serrano for the KLR liaison meeting and got to hear all the great things that are happening here and her goals and everything for next year, and took a tour around the building. So I just want to say thank you, Serrano, and like we said, if you need anything from us or invite us to anything you want to, we want things to do anything, book fair, anything you want, let me know.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Jersey. Mrs. Gallagher.
I attended with trustee, Roden. Sorry, like superintendent, assistant superintendent, the NISBA conference in Buffalo, New York. It was a great experience, learned a lot. I plan on sharing my, slides and presentation links. If anybody they're interested, I will email them when I get 2 seconds. I also, did, with Mr. Groden also, the tour of the St. John Street building, and wonderful program. Everything that's going on there. I'm just really proud of all the changes and what they've done over there. So that's it.
Very much, Ms. Owens.
I don't,
Vera.
I'm just reporting, for this week's Halloween Chase Parade was a great event. So I'd like to, trustee Jen and Ashley was also there in attendance. Kudos to our Chase administration staff, maintenance, the local fire department and the sheriff's department for supporting the parade. It was a wonderful event, just seeing the kids in all of their costumes and come outside and parade throughout Woodsboro was just, it was wonderful. So it was well put together. So thank you to everyone that participated, supported the event and attended. And then secondary, just to reiterate, the Hall of Distinction is tomorrow, 4 p.m. I just encourage the community members, students to please attend. It's as part of the committee for the Hall of Distinction. It's wonderful to see graduates of the Monticello Central School District who have committed either their career or their pastime to volunteer and support, or just support different groups or individuals and give back to the community. So I encourage to please come and just to recognize these local individuals that are being honored tomorrow. Please make the time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivera. Mrs. Riley.
I attended the Chase Halloween Parade, and this is my second year that I'm able to attend it, even though all 3 of my kids have passed through the school. But it's at a great time this year. It was at 2:30 in the afternoon, whereas I think in prior years it might have been earlier in the day, so it's hard to get that time off. So that was great, and it's really attended by a lot of the community, which is good to see too. So that's really appreciated every year. Also, I wish I could have gone to the trunk or treat. I love the trunk or treats, the one that was at Cook. Really wish I could have gone to that one. It wasn't as long this year as it has been in past years. And so unfortunately I wasn't able to attend that. I showed up late to the game, and it had only been for maybe a half hour or so. So I was looking forward to that, but either way, I hope to go to next year's trunk or treat. Finally, I just want to say something that I think that is important to get out there. I don't know how effective this is in this forum to discuss this, but I just want to just say that over the summer, the schools were given some information on how to best handle children that are transgender or a gender expansive. So there was some guidance that was given out to schools. It's called Creating a Safe, Supportive, and Affirming School Environment for Transgender and Gender Expansive Students. This is under the State Education Department. So I just want people to perhaps look through if they're interested to see what it all entails. There's 42 pages. And the state is asking that we abide by this this guideline. And, just, they're called guidelines. But I just think it's very useful for the community to understand what's in there and read what's in there. So, for example, it'll say best practice is to not call children by.
I think letting the public know that it's available, I don't know if we need to read it verbatim.
I'm not reading verbatim. I was just told this is the form that I speak on this. So I'll wrap it up. So the guidance would say instead of using boy or girl, you should be using another term instead of boy and girl when you're referring to students. So I just wanted it to be very clear that this information is out there. It's from the state and we're asked to abide by it. So thank you very much for your time.
I just want to clarify one piece there. The guidance, to be clear, the guidelines do not prohibit the use of he, she, boy, girl. It's if a student expresses a gender identity that doesn't conform to that. So those pronouns can still be used. And the guidelines do not discourage the use of them. Guidelines encourage educators to be aware and cognizant of students' gender identities and respect them as expressed.
I'm talking about page 22. Respectfully, I'm talking about page 22 that says instead of this gender-based practice of referring to students as boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, you are to try this.
You're talking about a whole group setting.
I am. So there are things in here that are recommendations. So I just want to be clear on what's being expressed because I'm not sure if that's being related to the community. Thank you.
Very much, Mrs. Riley. Mrs. LaRusso.
I attended the St. John's trunk or treat. We had 22 trunks and the little babies were so adorable in their costume. The staff really did an amazing job and the St. John's, the elder students made a trunk. It was a Cookie Monster. It was absolutely amazing. The artistic ability that's over there. Today I attended the athletic council meeting. They did have a lot of questions in regards to a bond that's coming up, and I would like more information on that. I'm sure I'll get it as we go, because I wasn't really able to give much information on that. There is concerns about our track falling apart and being in total disarray. One thing that I did learn is that the woodworking class created new benches and picnic tables for the spectators to enjoy during games. I didn't realize that our tech class did all that. So it's pretty awesome. And we're also on a 3-year cycle with uniforms, which is pretty cool. I also attended our policy committee meeting prior, and I'd like to say congratulations to our homecoming queen, Gabby, who's here, and Carlos. And I wish the cross-country team the best of luck this weekend.
Thank you very much, Mrs. LaRusso. Mr. Grote.
I too like to echo what Trustee Gallagher said. We went to excuse me, liaison meeting where we availed ourselves to Mrs. Board St. John Street and let her know our undying support and that we're there for her because 100% graduation, that's all I gotta say. And that was amazing. And I made it in the paper and kudos to her. The next thing that I would like to echo is that, yes, we had success at the convention, without a doubt. It was extremely informative. We went to, excuse me, many of the breakout sessions, learning sessions. And then I had the pleasure to interface with our very own lawyer, who was 2023 top 50 lawyers in Long Island in education law, and that's Mr. Anthony Fasano. So that was a pleasure. Architects, we were able to bond with and talk with them about our drive to help our students in the future immensely. And we're very excited. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grote and Mrs. Greco.
I attended the KLR liaison meeting with Ms. Jersey earlier today. And I also attended this month's conference at the committee.
Thank you very much. I have not been as active as all you guys. Just kind of the typical agenda settings and the The final modified soccer game was this week in the snow, which was just pleasant. And the boys did very well against Sullivan West, so congratulations to them. And looking forward to the winter season coming up. So moving on to principal reports. Questions, comment, yo.
I think here. Maybe, explain, just, 'cause I get confused, the importance of when one bond comes off. Why it's important for one bond to come on, since Ms. LaRusso had brought that up. 'Cause I know you financially can explain that better than I can. And I was kind of curious if you could tell us what year the one comes off, just so we have it for our record.
So the last bond that we have that came off the list was for the JK Middle School. That came off a couple of years ago. We had fully bonded the $54 million project, but we did bond anticipation notes in the same amount that we were already paid. So we maintained expense and we maintained our state aid, so there was no impact on the tax. So that's why when the bond comes off, you like to do another bond, so it stays flat, so it's not, you're not asking for more money. It's the same. Did that explain it?
When is the next one that we have to have that balance?
And that was the biggest one. We have a couple of little ones for an EPC project that we did several years ago. That's coming off in 2 years. And I think there's another small Excel project. Maybe, but it's nowhere near like millions of dollars. It's a couple hundred.
So moving on to principal reports. Questions, comments, concerns regarding the principal reports? Ms. Russo?
Just want to say that I think it's pretty awesome about the Daffodil project that St. John's did with the pre-K students. They brought some history wide and very heartwarming to see. Thank you
Very much, Ms. Russo. Any other questions or concerns regarding the principal reports? All right, moving on to policy committee, which did meet this evening prior to executive session. Dr. Evans.
Thank you, Board President Crumley. So tonight, the board will be we'll be doing second readings and adoptions of 5 different policies. There's the aforementioned amendment to the Code of Conduct. There is a change to the policy 0100 regulation, equal opportunity and non-discrimination regulation that comes to us from the New York State School Boards Association. There's revisions to policy 0110.2 and its accompanying exhibit. That is regarding sexual harassment in the workplace. Those are 2 items. And then lastly, a second reading and adoption for a change in the transportation for non-public school students. That also comes to us by way of the New York State School Boards Association. The changes to the sexual harassment in the workplace come to us at recommendation of our legal counsel, following advisement we've received from the feds. The policy committee tonight, though, did meet, and I believe we're forwarding 3 different policies for a first read at the next meeting. So a couple of those are changes recommended from NYSBA, and another is a recommended change to the lead water testing. So testing of potential lead particles in water. The change in that policy, in essence, would say if the district is clearly marking fixtures and faucets as non-potable, do not drink from, then it's not required to do lead testing on those fixtures. Right now, without that policy, even if we were to put those signs up, we still have to do lead testing on those fixtures. So we just completed a round of lead testing. We'll be posting those results shortly, but those are some of the changes coming forward in policy. Is anything else?
Questions, comments, concerns regarding policy or upcoming policy? All right, moving on to correspondence outcomes. There is an outcome in there from a public comment from the last meeting. That is in the agenda. if you would like to go over that, which brings us to capital project update. Dr. Evans.
Thank you, President Crumley. So a few updates tonight. First and foremost, our tennis courts are completed. However, it being winter, we will be shortly taking down the tennis nets for the winter. We will, however, have a formal ribbon cutting in the spring, and the courts will be ready for the boys' spring tennis season. So we are excited about that, and I've shared pictures of it with the Board of Education, and anyone who drives by the high school can see it pretty plainly, the completion. Now for some unfortunate news, as we have shared with our high school community, both staff members and parents and caregivers alike, we have detected mold in rooms 111 and 113 in the high school. This was detected on October 25th when our facility staff peeled back vinyl flooring to try to determine how far the new wooden flooring went under the cabinet. Now, we had previously moved classes out of those rooms in late September as there was an ongoing odor in the room. However, the room had been tested for air quality twice since January 2023. The volatile organic compound levels in both of those tests were below any harmful thresholds, and the rooms were determined safe for occupancy by external parties. Again, that most recent testing was in August. Now, over the weekend, through a contracted agency, we removed all of the moldy plywood. We did that on Saturday, October 28th, and the subsequent air quality testing in that room has shown a significant decline in the mold levels in those rooms and the surrounding hallways. So we are continuing air quality testing every day. We do it after school, and we'll continue that through next week at a minimum, if not longer. And then with next week's results, we'll share those with BOCES health and safety officer, who is out this week, but he will be returning next week for greater analysis and interpretation. But as a precaution, obviously, we've sealed that room from any type of occupancy. We've installed air stabilizers, again, out of an abundance of caution, and we've committed to the daily testing. So right now, what's in those rooms is just the old wooden floor, which is on top of sleepers, on top of a vapor barrier, on top of ground level concrete. Right now, our new architects are currently drafting a new scope of work that we want to share with prospective contractors soon, so that we can finish off the floor reconstruction in that room, with the idea being that we remove all wooden subflooring out completely. We grind the existing concrete, and we pour concrete flooring and level it up to the hallway level. So that'll be coming out shortly, or a scope of work to that effect. Now, we've shared those updates, or at least all the mold remediation. We've shared that update with our staff and families, and we appreciate their patience throughout this. And should there be any dramatic changes in the air quality testing, we will obviously share that with our staff and community immediately. At some point, the board will be making a declaration of emergency for that mold remediation. The reason for that declaration, it'll probably be at the next meeting, is that it will exempt us from having to have done any type of bidding on the mold remediation, because it was an emergency that we get that wooden subflooring out immediately without going through a lengthy bidding process. So we have filed a claim with our insurance carrier just to see what that might cover in terms of floor replacement. We're also looking at what funds remain in our capital project and our capital reserves, and discussing next steps with our architect and our legal counsel about the best ways to rebuild that floor. So I will keep the community and the board apprised if there's any significant developments. However, that's where we are presently. Any questions from the board?
Thank you very much, Dr. Moving on to New York State School Boards Association Convention updates. You have updates for us on the boards, because I think Todd and Wendy kind of hit on their points.
So yeah, I do have a few. They're in my, I have provided the board kind of a detailed update of what I experienced at the convention. And just to echo the sentiments already expressed by trustee Galligan and trustee Groden. It was a very valuable experience. The keynote speakers were very good, but ultimately for me, the breakout sessions, the networking opportunities, and the exhibition floor were really outstanding. I attended a workshop put on by the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services on the SNUG outreach program. SNUG is guns spelled backwards, and really it's a public health model in addressing community gun violence. In essence, they provide, the state provides training for community partners as well as social workers to go into communities following some act of violence. I will be following up with them to see what they might be able to offer a rural district like ours. Bold Election Management System has upgraded voting hardware and software that would basically digitize our books for the next election cycle. So I have arranged for a webinar or some type of phone conference with Ms. Leibel to look to see what that might entail. Again, as mentioned before, our legal counsel, Anthony Fasano, gave a very informative presentation on litigation that's arisen through the Child Victims Act. Right now, if we get any type of complaints of alleged sexual abuse against a student, we take vigorous action to investigate it immediately. I can comfortably say right now that we have no known complaints of any type of sexual abuse against our students. However, we are going to take some steps in record keeping to make sure that in the event that any claim did arise, we had documents preserved for any type of future possible defense. And then last but not least, a lot was said about the conversion to electric school buses. I'm pleased to share with the board that we do have our first electric bus charger, and there's a photo of that that's been installed at our parking garage or our bus garage. We're expecting our first electric school bus to arrive in December or January. The key, and there's a lot being talked about, but the key takeaway for me from that session that I attended was that, and this isn't surprising, but it was just for me a kind of an aha moment. A bus merchant, distributor, sales company will not deliver an electric bus unless you already have the appropriate charging equipment installed. So they really reinforce the idea that we have constant and develop a dialogue with, in this case, NYSEG, to make sure that the grid can hold new chargers as we install them. So step one is making sure the grid can support it. Step two is getting the charger, and then the bus comes in. So I'll keep the board posted on that.
Any questions, comments, concerns regarding state convention? Ashley?
On the whole election management systems. So is the software in lieu of having paper ballots that are counted?
Well, we don't have paper ballots now. We use scanned ballots, correct?
Okay.
These are in lieu of the books. So in other words, instead of having the paper books where they scan in the barcodes that way and people sign in, they basically do it on the touch screen.
So this is like kind of a paper ballot like this, and then you fill in the marker, and then my understanding was it was counted by somebody, and you're saying now you're just gonna have touchscreen and just press the.
No, the ballot was always scanned, has been scanned in. It goes to a
You
machine.
still have a
scan.
paper copy, correct?
Is that-
You fill in the.
is live,
and
that's
then
correct.
you-
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
scan it,
Yeah,
but you
so
still
this
have a
doesn't change
paper
that.
copy.
This is
This
basically
is the check-in
This is
process.
facilitating people to see that the person has a book, they sit there, excuse me, the person has a book and they sit there. And when you come in, you compare your signature with what's in the book. And this one, this software is so ridiculously amazing because it tells you if the person's even in the right zone to start off with, or they have to go to another place already. They have a greened up. It makes the efficacy of signing people in so much more streamlined and helping them so that it eliminates. So remember, we have all those ballots where they went to the wrong place and they signed an affidavit, and those had to be cracked open in the event that it was too close. This would eliminate that because you wouldn't have them there. It would have a red, it'd have a red indicator. No, this person does not vote here. Right.
And it would tell, it would
And you
inform us
also
where
already,
they
it would
go.
already also have the person's scanned in signature. So they would sign it and then the person would then have the next screen to compare the two signatures. So much faster.
And if I might add, because Todd and I actually went to different vendors on this, because we thought it would help Janet immensely. It also helps with the, absentees, all the labeling, all the work that Janet spends hours on at election time, plus everything's live. So like, you ever wonder how many people are voting? They have it, like, it's like little, little like tablets. And like, they can tell you how many people voted at any
Already.
second, every moment, and it'll be, your tally will be within like, I would say it wouldn't be that far off either, because everything's electronic.
It's like American Idol, you'd know.
Sure, but our paper ballot, still, you're doing the whole,
Still
Yes,
not
we're
ready
still
for-
using paper
and then you
ballots.
check the
Doesn't
paper
change.
ballots, you
Right.
still
And-
cross-check.
and just so-
Count the paper ballots,
No,
or you're not doing that
they-
either?
They go into a scan machine.
Yeah, so just so you know, the companies actually work with the Board of Elections. So, they're actually in Orange County already, a couple in Sullivan County. They're being used, but they work with the Board of Elections. They download the records. And like, instead of having, like Todd said, people sit there, everything's like an automated system. You will have your ballot, you put it in the machine, you walk out. But there's no confusion, nobody having to be who you are. It's moving it to a different level, actually. It's just streamlining it. So,
Processing people.
yes.
quicker.
So
correct,
then,
process.
so this last year's election, there was no paper ballots at all counted to check what was in the machine?
Well-
Just curious.
So last year, I mean, people would vote on a paper ballot and that would go into the scan, that'd be scanned in. And that's counted that way. That's the only time it's counted. Some people went to the wrong polling station or were not in the books. And they do an affidavit ballot. That gets sealed in an envelope. And the only time those affidavit ballots are open, Mr. Groden pointed out, is if the election is so close that the number of affidavit ballots might make a difference. So this process does not change that whatsoever. Nor does it change, I don't know yet, it might be the counting of absentee ballots. So absentee ballots would still be by paper. I don't know if this changes that in any way, but we'll see.
It was supposed to help with, preparing them, labeling them, helping to, because it's a big, give and go with them. If I followed it right, because I've never done the election stuff, but it was definitely supposed to take the time. If it would take Janet 2 days to do something and keep track of all this stuff, it's so live that it would populate everything for her. And coming back, it'd be so easy for her to just check a box and it's populated in the system. It's really good stuff. It's not infringing on any of the election rules, laws. It's just software to help the district clerk perform her job much more efficiently and much more quickly.
I understand that. I just didn't know if it was always counted paper ballots to confirm what was in the machine tally, and if this was a different setup. Sounds like it's the same situation because you didn't count it before paper wise. You just trusted what the machine told you.
They would have compared the number reported in the book to the number in the machine. But they wouldn't go through and do a manual, they wouldn't open up the machine and take out every ballot and then tally up every vote that way.
Any other questions regarding the state convention? Thank you very much, Dr. Evans, Mr. Groden, Mrs. Galligan, and Mrs. Carlin for attending that. Moving on to upcoming events. They are listed on your agenda. Most importantly, at least for the students, November 10th, Veterans Day, no school. Moving on to community events. A couple different articles from the Sullivan County Democrat are listed there, which moves us on to questions and comments from the public.
Yes, we have John Cassidy Jr. regarding tax law 466-A.
All right, before you start, I gotta do my thing. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and matters of public interest. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of public comment, the following rules shall govern and will be administered by the presiding officer. Please note that the first public comment period of 45 minutes maximum duration will be at the beginning of the meeting. and a period of 15 minutes maximum at the end of the meeting. Either period may be extended by a majority vote of the board. Neither public comment period is a time for public discussion. If necessary, the community member will be contacted for follow-up. If you wish to speak, place your name, email, and/or address, and telephone number on the sign-in list indicating the topic of your comments. Prior to making your comment, state your name for the record, identify any group or organization you represent. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less per speaker. A speaker may not yield his or her time to another speaker in order to extend the time for comment. No speaker may comment on or identify any particular student or employee by name, position, or situation in his or her comments. All comments are to be directed to the board president or designate. Handouts and/or petitions are to be given only to the board president for distribution to the board. The board will receive and consider all written comments. A memo will be placed on the agenda on the next meeting under information reports and discussions to keep the board informed of the outcomes. It will be titled Correspondence Outcomes and will be a public document. That was my piece. If you can come up to the front here, sir. Just so the microphone can pick you up also. Good. You're good.
You just, sir, the camera's right behind you, so if you just answer.
Yeah, there you
Okay.
go.
No, it's the same thing with Sullivan County Legislature. Trying to write this down so I'm a little quicker. My name is John Cassie Jr. I'm a resident of the town of Forestburg. I'm here tonight to request that the school board hold a public hearing regarding New York Real Property Tax Law 466 Alpha. This tax reduction benefits volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers. Due to time and requirement of notices, I hope the board can hold a hearing and subsequent vote prior to the end of this year to give ample time for the tax assessors and eligible residents to properly file the paperwork before the submission deadline in March for the upcoming tax year. I'll provide a copy of this request to the district clerk for the members of the board to review against their leisure. There will be hyperlinks to a letter that should have been sent last December from the Department of Taxation and School Board, as well as a copy of the new law. New York State passed an updated property tax law December 9th, 2022, that in 3 years sunsets tax law 466F that the Sullivan County Legislature passed in 2005. Previous law was not adopted by the school district. The new law requires one public hearing before the school district, among other HJs, can accept 466A by local law, ordinance, or resolution. This particular law allows for the school board to decide certain aspects of a tax assessment reduction up to 10% that they wish to afford to fire and EMS volunteer property owners. The range of required previous service can be between 2 to 5 years, as well as a separate section for those over 20 years and their spouses if that member is deceased. This tax law is anticipated to be used as an additional recruitment tool to help enlist new members throughout the fire and EMS service throughout the state, as well as the retention of members already currently volunteering. Other school districts that serve the county and have accepted this updated tax law are Munisink and Ellenville. Other HJs within the Monticello School District that have already accepted this include the towns of Bethel and Mamakaden, as well as the White Lake and Conneaut Lake fire districts. I myself am a volunteer firefighter and EMT, having served this community over 25 years, but this tax reduction does not even apply to myself as I'm not a property owner. In fact, accepting this reduction may benefit this time. Only 3 social members in Forestburg would all previously serve at least 20 years, each as a firefighter in my fire company, one of which is my father, another being a retired teacher from the school district. I hope you'll support some of the local volunteer firefighters and EMS volunteers by authorizing the maximum 10% reduction on the taxpayer's primary residence assessment after 2 years. It could be up to 5, but 2 years of certified service within the boundaries of the Monticello School District. Please also include the additional section that extends this privilege to surviving spouses of eligible members who have answered their final call. As a shameless plug for recruiting volunteers, because we need as much help as we can get. Anyone interested in joining the volunteer fire company or ambulance, contact Join Sullivan Fire at Gmail, go on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you for your time.
Do you have that saved on your computer?
I have it on the computer. Do you
Can
want
I
to
have
email to you or email to?
Just give me that sheet of paper.
It's got my handwritten notes. I was going to type it a little better.
Yep, and if you wanted to email it to me as well, that would be fine.
Okay, so
Yeah,
Just here, give me that.
I don't have the handwritten note.
Well, you're speaking quick. I missed every 30 seconds. But I got the gist. Thank you very much for coming this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan. Moving on from that to the superintendent update and information, Dr. Evans.
thank you, President Crumley. So tonight, I'm pleased to introduce a couple new members of our administrative team. First, Takima Killens has just been appointed as our next Director of Counseling, Social Emotional Learning and Student Services. Secondly, I guess returning to the Monticello Central School District is alumni Patrick Maraglia. Mr. Maraglia will be our new assistant principal at so I think everything else I've really talked about previously. I will, however, share with the board, and we'll have more announcements on this on our website. I had mentioned at the last meeting that I'll be holding virtual office hours through Zoom. I've tentatively scheduled those through December, so I'll be doing 2 in November and 2 in December, and then kind of reassessing to see how it's working out. But right now, the dates I've established for November are November 13th from 2:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon. And then on November 28th from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. We'll be putting those up on our social media platforms and website, and I'll be announcing it soon on my weekly video. But really, it's just a way to enhance kind of two-way communication between students, staff, community members, parents, and others with me. It is going to be via Zoom. It'll be kind of one at a time. So if there's a lot of people, you might be, kept in a waiting room. You can submit a chat to me. You can submit an email to me. You can call my office already. But just looking forward to setting that up in the upcoming months.
Thank you very much, Dr. Evans. Any questions for Dr. Evans? Larissa?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you for the follow-up email in regards to the tutoring for the parent square. I did miss it, but when I did go back to it, I had to click on a link that brought me to where tutoring was. Is there any way that when the eligibility list comes out and then we have a tutoring schedule, we can just have a picture on the parent square, just like you send something out and it's a picture of the tutoring schedule, so you would have to go to another link?
We can look into that.
We can, Ms. Lewis, we're required to be ADA compliant, which means that a photo is not accessible. A vision impaired person would not be able to read the photo. I know a lot of other school districts do it. If they ever get caught doing it, they're gonna have hefty fines. But I will look into ways to make it a little bit more visually appealing for the user to click on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very much. Larissa. Any other questions for Dr. Evans? Thank you very much, Dr. Evans. Moving on to Assistant Superintendent for Business Update, Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you, President Kirkland. Tonight I have 2 items for the board. One is asking the board to approve an agreement with Fallsburg Central School District to allow them to send one of their students to our pre-K special education program. And the other is the board to accept the donation and amend the general fund budget. The Chase PTO donated some money for the Chase School to get AV eliminated.
Thank you very much, Chase PTO. Any questions for Lisa? Thank you very much, Mrs. Bailey. Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction Update, Mrs. Garland.
Thank you, President Crumley. I wanted to reiterate what Dr. Evans said about our new administrative members. We're very excited and looking forward to working with you on our team. I also attended NYSSBA, as was already mentioned, so I want to thank the board for that opportunity. There was a lot of really great sessions, and it was a nice opportunity to get to know 2 of our board members a little bit better. I did attend sessions on active shooter, MTSS, which is something we're working very hard on this year, and a lot of sessions around student mental health, which is definitely an interest of mine. So thank you again for that opportunity. For the agenda tonight, I have a couple of things. You'll notice some contracts with our private schools. So just to kind of remind you what those are. Under our Title I funds and Title II and Title IV, we have to share that money with our private schools based on their enrollment, and they're asking to participate in that. So as part of that, they have their own consultants and employees that we fund through our district through independent consultant contracts. So that's what those contracts are that you see attached to this agenda and that you'll be approving tonight. Just to let you know, I did have our attorney take a look at the contract. There were some things that I just wanted to make sure were correct. So they have been checked by our attorney, the template, just a couple of weeks ago, so that you're aware that is happening. And the other contract that you will see on there is for our testing service that scores our 3 through 8 ELA and math tests, as well as our Nice Hotel for our students that are students, or L students. So both of those, the service comes in, picks up the tests, they grade them independently. It's a really good thing to do. We don't have to do that, but it's very wise to do that, because our teachers are not being taken away from their classes to do scoring, and there's no bias in the scoring because the scoring is done independent of our teachers. And so anytime our tests are recalled, that allows us to say, well, we had an independent organization score those tests. So that is that other contract there for you tonight to approve. Any questions?
Why did it take so long for these tests to come back if they were private organization doing their grading?
Well, it doesn't take long for them to come back. It's running it through the state. So as far as, they have to wait until everybody's taken a test, until they're able to compare growth scores before they release anything to us. We get the scores sooner than parents do. We can't say anything about them. They're embargoed until the state gives us that permission. But as soon as the state allows us to, they go out to parents.
So the state determines what the cut points are for 1, 2, 3, and 4. What this company will do is, students get, 38 out of 45 right. And we report that to the state. The state ultimately, at some point, maybe later on, will say, all right, they get a scale score of 680. And then at some point, they'll say a 680 is a level 3, or is a level 2, or is a level 4. So the delay is really with state ed while they norm all the data and determine what's proficiency and what's above proficiency and what's below proficiency. So
Is the same company we use? How many years have you used them? I know we've used them the last at least 2 years. Before that, we had that COVID stalling a little bit, and prior to COVID, I don't know if we used them, but I can look into that.
Other questions for Mrs. Carlin? Thank you very much. So we removed T11, so are we approving T1 through T11 or T1 through T10 and then T12? Got that?
Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Greco.
I motion that we, consider action item T1 to T10 and T12.
A second on that made by Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? Ordered. Mrs. Greco.
I motion that we approve action items T1 through T10 and T12.
Second by Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much, Mrs. Greco. Moving on, correspondence, none at this time. Janet, any questions or comments from the public? None at this time. Thank you very much, Janet. Which brings us to the end of the meeting. Any board member can sign your stuff if you're here for government class. Motion to adjourn, made by Mrs. LaRusso, seconded by Mrs. Rivera. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much, everybody.
yeah.